Hello, friends. How's it going? Hope you're having a good evening. I am having a day where things are getting handled, which feels good and like a little bit of a shift. I've been doing like a lot of fighting with administrivia and state agency and health insurance to just like get things done. And it has been just like a few weeks of like thing after thing that I spend way too much time on. But I'm not here to talk about the audacity of administrivia. I'm here to talk about the audacity of doing more with less. If this is your first time finding me in a live stream, welcome in. I'm Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm an executive coach and fractional chief HR officer. And I believe fine is a trap. And that's why it's in the top corner of my screens, my Zoom screen. It's my logo. It's my tagline. It's also the name of my company. I believe that we are never fine. Fine is not actually a feeling. It's a decision that we make to be like so-so, which is, not good for anybody. And to settle for things because we either don't think we deserve better, or we don't know what better looks like, or we think we might know what better looks like, but we don't know how to go after it. And so we say it's fine, this is fine, everything's fine, I'm just going to stay here. And I don't believe we deserve that. I think we deserve amazing things. And so that's what I coach on, and that's what I talk to companies about, and that's what I give speeches about. I think fine is a trap. We deserve better. Fine is not a feeling. It's a decision we make. And we are here for freaking amazing things. And so welcome in. I am going live every Tuesday on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to talk about the Forking Audacity. And the Forking Audacity are the things that happen at work, that happen in our work lives, in our careers, that are just like kind of jaw-dropping, that we accept as fact, and that we accept as just like part of the deal. Sometimes it's the things that your boss says or does, or your board, if you are the boss, says or does. Sometimes it is the audacity is the things that people say or do, who are your peers, who are people who report to you, who are entitled or feel entitled. And sometimes the audacity is you. The call's coming from inside of the house, and you, my friend, have the audacity to talk down to yourself or say you are only this or just that. And those are all the topics that I talk about. So tonight, we're going to talk about the audacity of the do more with less mentality. And if you're joining me, I would love for you to come say hi in the comments, ask questions, add your thoughts in as I'm talking. But I want to talk about, we're in this like very sort of kooky job market right now with the changes in the government. We are seeing a lot of layoffs and furloughs and just like outright firings that are very upsetting in a world where we are already have been seeing a lot of job eliminations. So there's a lot of fear in the workplace about what is happening, what could happen. There tends to be a feeling of, I better not rock the boat where I am because I'm easily replaced. And so I want to talk first about the do more with less. Then I'm going to dive into like, how do you respond to do more with less? And then I'm going to talk about this fear that we have, like rocking the boat too much, and what I've seen in actuality. And of course, I can't guarantee anything. I don't know your workplace. I don't know your boss. I don't know your subordinates. I don't know your board. I don't know what shape your company is in. So I'm speaking in generalities. But I'm speaking in service of you, the person who's viewing, who I'm going to imagine has the profile of a high-achieving, very hard worker who is good at work. Those are most of the people who follow my page or or my pages or who I'm connected to are the people who are like just real good at work. And so let's start with where do more with less comes from. And the truth is that it comes from poor planning. And that's like a really simple answer. So, like, why don't they fix it? But they, people who run companies, leadership teams, don't know how. We run into this issue as executives, as leaders, as board run or publicly held, or shareholder held, mutually held, or even privately held companies, and now the government as well, where we want to or need to make big budget cuts. And so we look around and we do these onesie twosie, hey, let's cut down on this. And do we really need this software? And can we slice this program down a little bit, or charge more for this service or that product? And so typically we're going through that first. Then what happens is we keep looking at budgets and we see ourselves going into negative, and we have to figure out how to either have more output, which means more people, more selling, more marketing, more service, or have fewer people. And having fewer people tends to be the place to go because it is the faster cost savings for a company. Whether that's what we all believe in or not, I've in my career as an HR leader and an HR exec, before I left to take my side gig of coaching and fractional work full time, there have been a lot of times where I was the executor of job eliminations, but not necessarily in the decision process of we have to let people go. And or there were times when I was in the decision process that the board or the executive team had made a decision that we had tried what we could and we had to eliminate jobs. So here is where the mistake comes in. Assuming that everybody's done all they can to save money or sell more, or fundraise more, if we're talking about the nonprofit industry, we need to eliminate jobs. Now, as leaders, and I'm talking to all of you leaders, when you have a seat at the table, this is the step they are missing. What work are we going to stop doing? And instead of taking that step, we focus so hard on what jobs we're going to cut, what jobs we're going to combine, which people are going to continue to work for the company or the organization, which people will not. There's no excellent way for any of that to happen, because in the end, you're hurting people and you're hurting people's livelihood. And sometimes it is necessary for a company to do that in order to survive. And so, having been on all sides of job elimination and layoff processes, I've seen all of the hurt. I've sat with CEOs and managers who have cried because they have to let people go. I have sat with employees who have cried because they've been let go. I've seen a lot of things, and none of it feels good. That said, after that process is complete, and by the way, if you have that process that you're getting ready to have in your organization, that is some of the work that I do is managing a compassionate restructure, because while it's never good, it never feels great to let people go. It always feels awful to be on the receiving end of being let go. There are ways to make it less bad, more compassionate, equitable, fair, supportive, and as graceful as possible. And that is something that I work with companies on when they are creating job elimination processes. So this happens, that we have to let people go. And in that process, when I work with companies on this, I do not recommend the do more with less mentality, because what happens is you've got this person A over here who has immediate relief that they were not in the job elimination process. Thank goodness they were not. Thank goodness for them that they still have a job. And a day or 2 days or a week goes by, and their superior person comes to them, their senior executive or CEO comes to them and says, we just let a third of the staff go. We got to do more with less. And this person, their heart sinks, their stomach hurts, because they know that do more with less means the 50 or 60 hour a week job that they were already doing is now going to be a 60 or 70 or 80 or 100 hour week, because we're doing more with less. Nobody's getting raises. Everybody understands that there are no raises, but because we didn't do an evaluation of what work is going to stop, we have no choice but to say, do more with less. So if you are in a leadership position, if you are in a position of authority, if you have the seat at the table, if you have the ability to be in the room where the decisions are made, the very first thing you have to talk about is, what work will this company stop doing? What will this company stop producing? What are the things that have the least amount of ROI that we can either cut out, build efficiencies around, automate, shift how much focus we're putting on them, back burner them, put them into next year's plans, pause them and plan to bring them back later? What are the things that can slow down or stop? Do more with less is awful. It is this mentality that you should feel lucky for having survived some sort of cuts or not replacing people, eliminating jobs, and now the pressure on you is like double or more. And for the people pleasers out there, raise your hands. I'm one. For the workaholics out there, raise your hands. Recovering one. More with less lights a fire in us, and we feel a great sense of responsibility to be in the do more with less camp. Like, I get it, I'm here, I'll help, count me in, where do you need me? And what happens in the do more with less mentality is there's a lot of grief around all of the people who have exited, or the jobs that haven't been replaced through like natural attrition, natural like people leaving and the company saying we're not going to replace people for a while. We have a hiring freeze, whatever phrasing they use. And then there's the added pressure of, this company won't survive without you, survivor. You've survived the job eliminations. You're still here. You have the intellectual capital that we need. You have the bucket of information. You have the history. You know how to do all of this stuff. So like, just be a team player and do it. What happens to us then is that we lose ourselves in the work, in trying to keep the company, the department, the function, the product, the service afloat, because we care about it, and we have cared about it for some period of time. And the part that we cared about can't function without the new parts we're responsible for. And so we do more with less. Ask me about the times that I was the interim VP of marketing and the interim VP of finance and the interim VP of fundraising and the interim VP of programs and name it. I've probably been interim of it. And I think that happens a lot, especially in smaller to medium companies. I think in the larger companies, what happens more is that jobs just get combined. And so where there were 3 HR generalists for this region, now there are 2. And so everybody has 1.5 jobs. Where there was a team of 10 marketing people, now there are 6. And the graphic designer now has to write copy. And the VP of marketing or the CMO is now also the creative director. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work for very long. What you end up having is a company that is poorly reviewed out on the Glassdoors and Indeeds and other sites. You have companies that are losing people left and right. And because there's a little bit of like a almost deliberate ignorance a lot of times from leadership, not because they're not taking on more work, but because like they think everybody should be able to handle all of this stuff. And sometimes it is true that the leadership isn't taking on more work. They're expecting their people to take on more work. But what happens is everybody gets burned out and everybody is reduced to mediocrity, and the company's output is reduced to mediocrity, and nobody is happy and nobody is thriving. And as soon as the job market starts to recover, everyone's out. And so you as a leader, you as an executive, if you have a say in this, before you decide who is leaving the company, if you have to do job eliminations, and I always think that should be a last resort, before you make those decisions, you have to do an analysis of what is the work that has to continue, what is the work that's coming that we are going to continue to do, and what is the work that will stop. And that is the absolute key. You cannot continue to just business as usual without all of the people. So the do more with less mentality, it worked for us Gen Xers in the 90s and first decade of the 2000s. We can't do it anymore. And the elder millennials are built similarly to the Gen Xers. And again, I'm generalizing. The younger millennials and the Gen Zers are like, I don't want to live like that. I'm not doing that. I've seen my elders like destroy themselves and live in burnout and live in stress. That is not for me. And so we aren't going to have that workforce for the future. So if you are in leadership and if you're making these decisions, do more with less is not your solution. Now I want to talk to those of you who are the VPs, the directors, the CEOs who report to a board, the middle managers. I want to talk to all of you who get the just do more with less conversation, that there is no discussion. And I think there are a couple of things that you can do as an individual person, fighting for yourself and fighting for the people who report to you. And these are those things. The first thing is, and again, this is general, if you want more specific insight into how to respond to a do more with less kind of thing, coaching is a great option for that. Get on a call with me. I do a free strategy call, free 30-minute strategy call to talk about what is happening in your organization, in your company that's coming at you with the do more with less mentality. Very often it's a combination of what the company is asking for and what your boundary rules are for yourself, or your lack of boundary rules for yourself. And that is work. That is not like a one session, let's real quick knock this out in 30 minutes kind of thing. But on a strategy call, you get to start the conversation about like, what is happening with you? Why are you doing more with less? So the first thing to know is you're not alone in this. A lot of people are asked to do more with less, and they don't know what to do with that information except to do more with less. And that is not the only answer. So that's one thing, is know you're not alone. The second thing to think about is not only are you not alone, but if internally you're all willing to talk to each other, and this is not like a gang up on senior leadership or gang up on each other kind of mentality, But if all of you are feeling this overwhelm, if all of you are feeling this pressure to do more with less, then all of you are suffering and all of you get to work together to figure it out. And that is where team really comes into action. That is where, like, as a leader, you can help your leadership team really thrive and really shine and really be like the heroes and heroines of your company. Is like, if you've done job eliminations or if you've got a hiring freeze and people have been leaving, to just say do more with less is not an answer. To say we're going to put these things on hold for now, or we're going to stop doing these things, or these two jobs are combining into one job, but it won't be double the job. We're going to figure out how to streamline this job. If you're coming in as the advocate for your employees, you will fare well. Even if for a short time there is a little bit of do more with less, because we're figuring out what less work we're going to do as we move down the line. So, not alone. Team up with your team, because if you are feeling overwhelmed, it's probably not you. If it is just you, if you're the only one who is doing more with less, that's a boundary building and people pleasing situation that is really served well in coaching. Those are the clients that I work with that do the most work in improving their careers, and it bleeds into their regular personal lives. It bleeds into their relationships. That when we don't have boundaries, and boundaries is a whole other audacious situation, which I can talk about another time. But when we don't have boundaries, and we see other people around us having those boundaries, we are the only ones doing more with less. We need to figure out individually how to handle that. So that's the next thing is, work with your team. And then the third thing is push back. If your company is doing more with less, they do not have the time, the energy, or the expertise to replace you. And again, I'm speaking in generalities. I'm not promising you that if you go and stand up to your senior leaders and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, and it's all over for you suckers, I'm not doing this work anymore, that you won't get let go. I'm not saying that. So you do want to be thoughtful and careful. And also, you have the right and responsibility to manage your time, your energy, and your workload to the best of your ability. So imagine your company has just let a quarter of its staff go. And the new plans are in order, and the company has decided what everybody is going to be responsible for. And you are a department head who is being told to do more with less. You get to say, I will run out of time before I run out of work. You get to say, can we sit down and map out how this work gets done? Because do more with less just puts us into a frenzy of trying very hard and probably not completing much of anything. You get to ask for support. You get to ask for team. You get to be a leader who talks about what isn't possible and what is possible. So you do want to come in solutions oriented. You do want to come in saying this entire workload cannot possibly get done. Because if you've been in this situation, if you've been in this do more with less situation, even if you've worked 70, 80, 90 hours a week, if the workload is that big that the do more with less can't be accomplished, you're not going to accomplish everything anyway. You're going to live in a constant state of stress and high cortisol. And at the end of the year, you're going to get your performance review, and you're either going to have a performance reviewer who says, wow, this was a really big year of do more with less. And I know you didn't get everything done, but I'm really impressed with how you did. Great. But couldn't you have discussed what you couldn't get done earlier in the year and like even revisited it once a month or every quarter to see what you might be able to add back in or what you might not, so that you didn't have to live with that stress all year? Or could you have come in and said, like, we got to figure this out now before you burn me out. And before all I'm doing is wanting to leave and being so busy that I don't have time to look for another job. I want to stay here. I want everybody to want to stay here. And do more with less is not the answer. So if you want to talk about any of this, set up a free strategy call with me. There's a link in my bio to get in touch with me. If you can't find a link in my bio, send me a DM. And would love to have conversations about this, because I think so many of us fall into this do more with less. And if we already aren't good boundary setters, if we already are chronic hand raisers, I'll do it. I cannot tell you how many times in my career I raised my hand and said, I'll do it. And I know you know, because if you follow me, if you've come across me, you know I talk about this all the time. If that's already how you are as a human, and you have not yet learned how to set boundaries, and yes, everybody can learn how to set boundaries. Everybody can learn how to find healthy ways to be really productive and also hold boundaries and do things outside of work, and have boundaries with family, have boundaries with friends. It's possible for everybody. But if that's already how you are a person who always says yes, you're a person who always volunteers, you're a person who's always been willing to do more with less, and someone comes to you and says it's time to do more with less, you're in trouble. It's going to get really hard. And I don't want that for you. And you don't want that for you. If you're already there, if you're already in the do more with less messiness, that is also something you can work through. And it's not necessarily run away and get a new job. A lot of times there's a lot you can do on your end, little steps, micro choices to make things different. And that's what I can help with. I will see you next week for another The Forking Audacity. And I hope you have a great night. Thanks so much.